Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is Phyllis from New Launching Live. It's my very first Facebook Live, so pardon me if you find that there are some things that I should be moving on. But what's important is what are we going to cover today? So today we are going to cover what is 8 years worth of opportunity cost. So why this topic? Okay, before we go into the details, first of all, I'd like to congratulate those who are already sitting on paper profits and a massive congratulations to those who will potentially be hitting another record high by selling $1 million HDB with that $1 million bill. So why this topic? Across my work, I actually came across a lot of Singaporeans who felt that getting that BTO is a sacred chance that they do not want to lose out on. So as a result, many singles, they rather wait until they are 35 to get their very first flat, or even young couples who are planning to get married, they will make huge sacrifice just to get the BTO. So today I just like to share when I was a recruiter. That was about 10 years ago. When we hire people, we like to ask our candidates, why do you leave your previous job? And back then it was rather shocking to me that I had candidates who left their job so that they will not hit the income threshold to apply for a BTO. So this couple, this lady, she told me, herself and her fiance, with their combined income, they are not able to apply for a BTO. So she had to quit her job, try to apply for a BTO, and once she gets the BTO, she is back into the job market. So the fact is, back then, there wasn't much of a lottery effect that we know of. Duxton BTO flats were only ready in 2009, so there were no such news about $1 million flats or flats hitting that record high. So right now, people are wanting to buy HDB and specifically BTOs and look for that $1 million attributes in hope that once it hits MOP, they are able to sell at a huge profit. So, but the issue is how many of you have that kind of opportunity to get the house, the dream BTO, that $1 million attribute. So let's move on to see what is the opportunity cost. So for that candidate applying, of course, we are talking about 6 months of income loss. So what about the 3 years of waiting period to get the BTO ready, plus that 5 years of MOP? What have they missed out on? So I got the data from different sources. Some are actually HDB plus launches information, and I also got the curated price for some of the private transactions that I use as an illustration. So I specifically looked at BTOs that were actually launched in 2010. Okay, launched in 2010. So why I chose this time frame is because from 2010 to now, it's about 10 years, and that is about the cycle where such BTOs are in the market, and we see some healthy transactions. So for 2010, there were 16 over 1,000 BTOs that been built, and of which the average size is about 80 over square meters. And in 2011, we had more HDB flats being launched. We had 25,000 over, with an average size of 83 square meters. So this coincides with about a 4-bedroom size, unit size for HDB, and it's comparable with condo. It's comparable with a condo that is about 3-bedder. So to start off with the first example, District 23, Bukit Panjang, Choa Chu Kang, Kyu area. So I picked this development, Senja Gateway. It was launched in July 2010, and it was ready for occupancy in October 2015. So the average price back then was 274,000. So these numbers I actually got from the past brochures and took an average in them. And there's a recent transaction for a 4-bedroom apartment, September 2022 transaction for about 450,000. So within a 10 years period from July 2010 to now, the owner actually made an average profit of about 174,000. I think this is something that many people will be happy to know, that just by sitting there, your HDB just appreciating But what about private property? So back then, if the candidate were to go into a private property, obviously they are quite fortunate to be in that income at the income level that they have to sacrifice one of their jobs to go for BTO flat, which also goes to say that they are in a very good position to actually go into a private property then and there. So if they were to make the decision to enter a private property, this is what happens. So Treehouse is another development that was launched in May 2010, and it's actually not too far from this development at Senja Gateway. So looking at the early sellers scenario, the property Treehouse TOP, and look at this first early seller. They actually sold it. They actually sold it in May 2011, just 1 year of holding. So 1 year of holding period, and they are able to profit $89,000. How long does it take for a regular couple or family to actually save $89,000? But it only took this 1 year, and they actually managed to do this, make this gain. So another buyer, he actually held on to the property for 5 years. From May 2010, he bought it to July 2015, and it's TOP in 2013. So that's to say he only stayed in the property for 2 years and looked at the kind of gain. But in the meantime, what is happening to your HDB? You are just starting to move in, and you are not able to cash out on such gains when the timing was right for them. So let's talk about the recent case then. What happens? Again, the sizes are similar. All these are 3-bedroom units. These buyers, these owners, they actually sold after 10 years. And look at the massive gain that they made, is 300 over 1,000. Compared to a HDB, you hold it, you only make 174,000. So this is one of the districts of HDB towns that experience this effect. So this is something more visual for you to analyze or just to have a quick understanding. So this is Treehouse transaction back in 2010. That's when they had most of it. This is the average price for a regular 3-bedroom. So I took Bukit Panjang HDB town to compare because that's where Treehouse is located. So I selected units that were completed between 2010 and 2015. Reason being, these are the units that are now what you see in the market available for sale, where the most of the units are being transacted. So you can see from 2010 till now, Treehouse is making a steady progress in terms of the price, but the HDB price remains flat. So to illustrate other districts, picked up a few more. So this is at Punggol, a very popular district among BTO flats, and a lot of people actually go to Punggol, Sengkang area to have their first flat. And looking at this statistics, so similarly, there is a building period for about 3 years plus, coming to 4 years, and they can only wait for 9 years before they can sell off the unit, making 163,000 profit. Okay, so comparatively, for another apartment condominium that was launched around the same period, this is what the early movers actually make. In fact, after holding for 4 years, they were able to make 200,000, and another unit makes slightly lesser. So note that it's a similar level, similar size, but of course, when it comes to the unit itself, there are unique attributes that also help to determine how much potential upside you can gain in the future. So what about the recent seller cases? So I actually have an ebook, and it clearly shows that District 19 has a lot of resale transactions for this size, family oriented. So look at the demand and look at the pricing. It actually appreciates 268,000 and 270,000 over 10 years. Again, comparing to the profit for HDB. So that is $100,000 difference. All right. So again, graphically, this is what you can see. The development treasure trove actually increases steadily. Of course, you have some events along the way, but look at the HDB prices and look at the kind of transactions you have. So there are transactions in area, and this is really fueling demand for new launch properties. Finally, District 27. During that period, these are the 3 districts or 3 towns where you see a number of new BTO launch. So this is also one of them. So, okay, for this Orchid Spring, it launched in 2011. Ready in, sorry, I think there's a typo error here. They can only sell in 2020. From then till now, holding for 9 years, this is the profit that they made, 120,000. But for private, I actually took 2 developments here, just for more comparison. So this is Canberra residences. For early movers, within a 3 years to 4 years period, they actually managed to sell at a significant profit. But the late movers, they were not able to achieve this kind of gains. So of course, along the way, there are many factors that do affect the prices. Demand is definitely one of them. In comparison, 8 courtyard is not far away from Canberra residences, but the gains have been rather stable, and in fact, it actually outperforms Canberra residences. So we can always PM me, and we can always analyze further, and we can look into the details of why such things actually happen. That boils down to your unit selection and what you know about it. So looking at the trend, despite Canberra residences having a little bit of a hiccup recently, but again, the trend in general is still upward trending. Similarly, for 8 courtyards, it's also upward trending. But Yishun, HDB there, in HDB Yishun Town, is actually pretty flat. So there isn't much of a movement. But again, you see a peak in transactions in 2019 and 2020. So these are units that will launch around that 2010 time frame. Okay, so I think some of you might have seen this chart before. It's actually showing the HDB price index, this orange line, and the blue line is actually the private property price index. Something to share. I think you will see that the prices are growing in tandem. The growth is in tandem prior to 2015 or even 2016. So this is what happened. So assuming you are a buyer and you bought a HDB around the 2010 time frame, 2011 versus someone who bought a private property in 2010, similar time frame. So as a private home owner, you are able to exit your property anytime during this year. Back then, before there were like penalties like SSD involved, people were able to actually sell off their property with lesser restrictions. So that's the flexibility we have. And if you manage to cash out, you can always sit on the profit and wait for another opportunity to arise and enter the market again, or find some other investment products that you might be more interested in. So it's really up to the individual. But the whole point is you have that additional cash on hand. In comparison, for HDB, like from this period 2010, you have to wait for about 3 years, which is around here, for you to actually move in. So between then, 2010 to 23, there's nothing you can do. So from there, you have to wait for another 5 years of MOP. And that's when you really miss out on the opportunities over here. Okay, so yeah, I was earlier sharing that they were moving in tandem until this portion, you see that they actually diverge. So what's the reason? Our minister, Mr. Lawrence Wong, back in March 2017, he said that our HDB flats will eventually go back to the state once they run out of their lease, and not all HDB flats will be eligible for CERS. And to know that it's 4% only that is eligible for CERS, I think it became a very worrying thing for Singaporeans who are holding on to flats. And that was the effect. Around 2017 Q3, from then onwards, you start to see that there is a bigger divergence between the private property prices and the HDB property prices. So this one further summarizes how they have moved differently. So okay, in conclusion, I think you would have seen that in different areas, the scenario gap is HDB, you are not able to cash out within, you are not able to ride on any property cycle or any wave during the initial years. So that is an opportunity cost. And how much is the opportunity cost? I think it's really for you to decide. It really ranges like from here, if you were to cash out and if you were to enter another property, what would have happened? So it's really for you to decide what will be the opportunity cost for you and your family. And then, like I mentioned, you can cash out on the private property anytime, and with that money, you are able to do something else. So I like to reiterate that there is no one size solution that caters to all kinds of families and all kinds of requirements. So everyone is unique, and of course, the path to private home ownership may not be something that's suitable for everybody. But what's important is to stay prudent and work within your means. And of course, planning, I advocate planning a lot. So if you do have any questions on whether you are able to afford a private property or what should you do next with your BTO, or even you are a first-time homeowner, first-time property buyer, what are your options? Speak to me. My contact details are here, and we'll have a consultation with you at your convenience. So with this, I would like to end my sharing, and we'll hope to see you soon. Okay, see you.